we believe it. Look who we are the dreamers. We make it happen, cause we can see it. It's to the ones that keep the passion, respect, oh yeah. It's to the ones that can imagine, respect, oh yeah. Gather round now, look at me. Respect and love the only way. If you wanna come with me. The door is open every day. This 1 + 2 rendezvous, all invited. This what we do, how we do. Look who we are the dreamers. We make it happen, guess we believe it. Look who we are the dreamers. We make it happen, cause we can see it. It's to the ones that keep the passion, respect, oh yeah. It's to the ones that can imagine, respect, oh yeah. نحلم إن يكون العالم أحلى ونعيش بحب ونتجمع ونخلي صوتنا يملى هالدنيا.
Good afternoon, everyone. Do you have everyone here? Team Assassin and Team Charlie's Angel. Please indicate your presence in the text space by indicating your speaker roles and your speaker roles and your team name. Your team name and your speaker roles in the text space. Thank you. Please, am I audible, please? Am I audible? Can you all hear me? Confirm if I'm audible, please.
My end, you're audible.
Okay, please. Kindly indicate your team name and your speaker roles in the text space. I'm still expecting the rose from Charlie's Angels. Please do not delay us, please. Please. Okay, that is done. Thank you very much. So, without further ado, let's welcome the first speaker. And before that, always remember to indicate your POI preference, and we should all respect each speaker's preference. So, we welcome the first speaker from Assassin. Here.
Okay, before I begin, I didn't hear your last thing about the POIs.
I said you should indicate your POI preference, and every other speaker should respect your preference.
Okay.
Okay. And also, one last thing, I would indicate the time in the text space. I would tell you when you have exhausted 1 minute and when you have 1 minute left. So when you're on 1 minute, I would type it in the text space. And after 7 minutes, I would type that also in the text space. So keep your eyes on the text space so you don't go over time. Okay, so thank you. Begin. You can begin now.
Okay, I'll be beginning my speech in 3, 2, 1. So, Chair, this House prefers a belief in an interventionalist God to an non-interventionalist God. Before I can elaborate further on this motion and actually break it down and present our case as team proposition, allow me to first contextualize and characterize some of the things that will actually make this debate win for team proposition. First, we look at an interventionalist God. The belief in an interventionalist God is basically belief in a God who gets involved in human affairs directly on certain issues and when he feels it's necessary. On the other hand, we're looking at a side of a non-interventionalist God belief, a belief that God actually made the world as it is and let it to be, that everything in the world is not influenced by God, and actually we judge our own decisions. But before we go into our case, we need to know what an interventionalist God looks like. We cannot actually prefer it without looking at what it is, what he is, and what he does. So what does it supposedly look like, this belief? One, he comforts you, changes your mood. This belief, actually, the belief, it shows that he punishes you for wrong. This God rewards you when you do right. He gives you hope and light and direction where you need it. He gets only involved in certain issues where and he actually does where he deems necessary, and he answers your prayers and hopes. He lets you decide for yourself, that one we have to acknowledge, and only interferes where he finds it necessary. What is the importance, first and foremost, of having this belief of an intervention? Or I would like to see the problem of having a non-interventionalist God. One, the belief in non-intervention of an interventionalist God, it helps. Without it, there would be increased rate of immorality, which we'll talk about in our debate. Since there's no one to punish or to actually to reward you for your right, we must acknowledge that the belief in this actually is what encourages Christians to do right, to be righteous, because they know that he will reward them, and actually induces that fear in Christians because they know they will punish him. And so with this belief, without this belief, people will also lose this hope. Without the belief of an interventionalist God, people lose hope, especially when people go through misfortunes. One of the things that actually encourages them is the fact that they know that God will actually come and hear their prayers. So that belief in an interventionalist God, we as Team Affirmative today are going to rightly say that we actually prefer this belief because it helps us in our society in many ways, in terms of hope and in terms of keeping the standards of morality high, because this God actually intervenes where he finds it necessary. So you will realize that most of our case will actually rotate around protection of the morality rate, and actually keeping hope in the people. But allow me to take out my first contention or my first argument, the concept of righteousness and morality, the concept of all the belief of an interventionist God can actually serve as a motivation for people to do good in the world and to make positive contributions to their community. Why is this true? Because they actually know through this interventionist God, when they have that belief of the interventionist God, they actually go and do good and actually be rewarded. Without the intervention, without the belief of this interventionist God, they actually have no motivation or no reason to do right, because simply they know that even though I do this, even though I give charity, even though I help a needy person, I will not be rewarded, because God lets me do my own things and He does not intervene in human life in any way. So we believe that it's very important for humans to actually have this belief and to have this knowledge that there's a God who actually intervenes and who actually helps us, who rewards us, and who does good to us when we actually do good. And it also serves as it also helps us to combat immorality in the same argument, because in a way, when people believe or know that there's no one who actually punishes them for their wrongdoing, it will increase the high crime rates, simply because there's actually no one to intervene in their misfortunes or actually in their wrong things. So we believe that it's the impact of having this belief is that there's going to be lower crime rate, the morality standards will be high, and actually people will actually do more good and will actually have the motivation to do better, simply because they know that with this, with the high morality, with the interventionist good, we're going to be rewarded for the good we do, and we're going to be punished for the bad we do. The other thing we're going to talk about is providing comfort and hope to believers. We must acknowledge that we live in a society where people lose hope easily when actually they do not get what comes their way. So when you live in a society where people actually do not believe that God intervenes in their situations, or when we live in a society where people actually do not have hope that their fortunes are going to change, we're going to have catastrophic effects. It's important that whenever we lose hope, or whenever we're in dark times, there's actually someone to pick us up. We believe that there's someone to pick us up to change our misfortune. Supposingly I lose my mother, or supposingly I lose my father, or supposingly a misfortune happens, we have that hope. And we have that hope simply because of the belief that God intervenes and helps us where it's necessary. So the impact of having that belief is that we're actually going to have believers, we're going who actually have comfort and hope. We're going to have a class of people in society who actually do not lose hope and lose morale, whereby they know that there's someone who intervenes. If we compare it to a side where we have an interventionist God, on a comparative analysis, where people actually do not believe that God intervenes, we're having people who actually lose hope easily, and this is where cases of suicide come up. This is where the part of the cases of suicide come up, because there are people who actually believe that God has abandoned them, or people who believe that actually no, there's no one who actually changes my fortunes, and so I am alone in this world and I have no one to actually help me. And this is where suicide cases come up. This is where cases of depression come up. And this is where cases of high crime rate come up, because actually people know I'm not going to be answerable to anything from anyone, and nothing will happen, nothing will change it. So our whole motion will rotate around the morality rate, that what this interventionist God actually does, and why it is so important for an interventionist God to come here. The team opposition will have a burden or a mandate to prove to us that having a non-interventionist God will actually help us better than having an interventionist God, because we believe as team affirmative that the belief in an interventionist God is so key in terms of maintaining the standards in a society, maintaining peace, maintaining law and order in a society, simply because they know everyone in this world is answerable to what he or she does. With that, I would like to leave two things on the floor. One, the motivation for people to do good in society. Two, the comfort which believers actually get by participating in the thing. And if I actually have time, I think I would like to talk about the fact that certain events or phenomena cannot be explained easily without the belief in an interventionist God. So having it will actually enhance and actually make us be able to believe in certain events or phenomena that can't be explained by natural causes, such as abrupt healings, natural disasters. So it's important for us to have this belief in an interventionist God to actually enhance our belief and actually explain certain events. Therefore, as team proposition, we have a mandate and a burden to prove to you these things in order to actually substantially win the debate. But we actually believe that an interventionist God actually would prefer that belief, since it will actually help and benefit people more. My second speaker will come and elaborate more on our arguments, enhance our arguments, and my third speaker will actually come and elaborate on the key clash points and actually show where we have won the debate. I beg to submit.
Please, I'm very sorry for that. We thank that speaker for that very fine speech. We welcome the first speaker from the negative to begin that speech. Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Am I audible? Am I audible? So I guess I'm audible. Okay. So I'm going to start my speech and I'll take my POIs verbally. Please don't write in the text space. So I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panel, imagine living in a world where you know that any time some powerful divine being is going to change your plans or maybe mess them up. Chair, this is the world the side proposition preaches for. A world where people live in continuous fear for what's going to happen to them next. Bond rejects such a kind of life for our society to progress. 3 things we're going to do in these speeches today, right? We're going to show you where our world actually attains more utility. We're going to show you, secondly, why God is better off on our side. And we're going to show you, thirdly, why the stakeholders actually benefit more from our side of the house. And it's going to be brought up in our second speech. But before that, let me start with a bit of rebuttal, right? What do we get from the other side of the house? We get 3 major assumptions. A, their world has more morality. B, people become more hopeful in their world. C, in our world, no one is actually punished for their sins, right? Now, let us start off with their world actually has more morality, right? But now we have to get more clarity on the definition of what an interventionalist God is, because we get something very small and many assumptions from the other side of the house, right? In this side of the house, where interventionalist gods actually exist, right? People believe that God changes some situations in human affairs, right? He can end these situations, he can preserve these situations, and he can change these situations, right? But what exactly and how exactly does he do it? He just doesn't wake up one day and he does it, right? Here we get 2 implications, right? You can pray to God to be forgiven for anything that you have done, and he actually intervenes and makes your life better. Or B, for any situation that happens to you, you can actually pray to God, and then God can actually like stop this whole thing. And like when you're poor, you can actually pray to God and God like stops this sort of thing that is actually happening to you, right? Now, what does it actually imply on morality? Let's look on the idea where you actually have the power to actually pray to this sort of God, and this God forgives you, right? Is that world moral in any kind of sense, right? We believe that that world isn't moral, given the fact that you're going to commit all your sins, and then you know God is watching you. You're going to pray to God, then you will know that God has forgiven you. Then you will still do the same thing that you did because you know God is interventionalist, right? God exists. God is actually going to forgive you. But also, secondly, right, people become more hopeful in their world, right? We believe that this is kind of absurd at a particular point in time where I pray to God. I spend the rest of my life praying to God to become a very good teacher, but God does not actually give this to me. What does it do to me, right? Other people have become teachers, but I have not yet become a teacher, but I pray to God, right? So this is not something good, right? It demoralizes me and I lose hope in God in the vast majority of instances. But also, thirdly, we actually have to understand that in our world, people actually punish for their sin. Let's understand what our world looks like aside negative, right? In our world, God does not intervene with the functioning of the natural world in any way, right? It runs according to the laws of nature. But who makes the laws of nature? God sets the rules. God says stealing is bad. You are not supposed to steal. So something is supposed to happen to you. It is basically karma. You are punished by nature for what you have done. You can't kill someone and you expect not to be punished, right? So we believe that in our world, what goes around comes around, right? That is basically what our world looks like. This particular point in time, you're going to steal something, then something bad is going to happen to you. The laws of nature, what goes around comes around. Taken. 3.
So you just considered the fact that in case nature is to pay you back, that would be a God intervening in your life. I think you are farming
Let us
nicely
understand
today.
the difference between intervention with God and not God. We have to understand that in our world, we believe in karma, right? We believe that for every action you do, something in return has to happen to you, right? You cannot steal and nothing happens to you. That is the law of nature. In our world, we believe in the law of nature. Nature says what goes around comes around. Now, that is the difference between our world, because in your world, you believe that God is the one who is going to come and intervene, right? In our world, we believe that nature is not going to intervene. not God, right? It is nature which is doing everything. That is how things are supposed to happen. The bad people must be punished for the bad things they do. That is what we believe in. You believe that God is the one who's going to intervene. I'm going to pray to God, and God is actually going to forgive me now. Moving on to our positive matter, right? Why do we believe that our world actually attains utility, right? What is utility, right? In this case, we believe that the human race is actually able to prosper better. Now, what do we get from the other side of the house, right? People actually become lazy because at this particular point in time, you're going to pray to God. God is actually going to intervene, right? And he's going to make you the richest man in the world when you pray to him, right? Secondly, people will always commit crimes in their world because they know they're going to pray to God. God is going to intervene, right? Or secondly, even if someone does something bad to you, something that is very small, you are going to be forced to pray to God, and then God will actually do something bad to that person. It is going to turn into a chain of revenge through God, right? That is the word that they preach for, right? We pray to God to punish the people who have actually done bad to us, right? And then what picture does it paint of God? It paints God as someone who actually just does things to actually punish people. That when we actually leave nature. Now, what do we see in our world, right? Our world, we actually see people cautious about what happens to them because here we know it's nature, no God. We aren't going to pray to God at any point in time, right? So it deters people from actually doing anything. You know that you won't pray to God to be forgiven for anything bad you have done. You know that the laws of nature are going to act upon you for what you do. And at this particular point in time, you are deterred from doing anything because you know there is no way out or any sort of thing. But also, secondly, people actually become more hardworking. Why? Because they actually know that they aren't going to pray to God. God isn't going to help them. They aren't going to be lazy and sleep in their beds and keep praying to God, right? So at this particular point in time, these people actually push to continue working harder and strive for what they do. And even when they're in very bad situations, they are pushed to actually actually work for what they can actually attain and do it with themselves. And if they fail, they have no one to blame because they know, well, it's not God intervening here, right? They will not actually blame God for anything that has happened to them, which is actually something good, right? God actually created us, and it is actually good to praise God, right? So what is good about a world where people aren't actually praising God, but rather people are actually blaming God for the bad things that actually happen to them, right? That is a world that is very undesirable, that we don't want to actually take upon aside negative, right? Now, finally, let us look at the idea of life, right? Why do we actually live? We live to attain something great. We live for self-actualization, fulfillment, and satisfaction. But how do you feel when you know that there is a divine force intervening in your life, right? When you win something, when I win this debate today as I'm going to win it, I will actually know that, well, God is the one who actually made me do this, right? It doesn't give me that sort of fulfillment that I've actually wanted to get because I know that it's God doing it. Now, why is this particularly harmful? This is harmful because people do not actually get the real meaning of life, right? It principally demeans the whole life that you live, the whole idea of self-actualization that you would have wanted, or fulfillment. I'm not fulfilled because I know God led to this. And me as a human being, I want to actually live upon what I have done for myself. But also, secondly, there are two kinds of interventions. One you pray for, and one that actually happens to you, right? I will pray to win this round, but then other people will actually be there. But if God gives me to actually win this round, I will actually have harmed the other people who wanted to win this round but didn't pray. So when I pray for something good to me, know that there's something bad that is going to happen to other people. And what happens to other people when actually this something bad happens to them, right? They start undermining what people actually do. They start undermining what God actually does, right? And it actually undermines people's free will and coerces them to actually do things that they wouldn't want in order to please this particular God, who is in the end going to actually like sort of give them some very good benefits and then living a normal life. Now, we win this debate on three premises, right? We show you why it is actually principally justified to have a non-intervention of God. We show you why our world attains more utility. And finally, why God is better off on our side of the house. We beg to negate this motion.
Hello. I'll be starting my speech.
We thank the speaker for their very fine speech. We welcome the second speaker from Zephyr. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to be starting my speech. I hope I'm audible. Am I audible? Okay, I guess I'm audible. My time is going to be starting in 3, 2, 1. Why were people created? Once you engineer a world, your first mindset is what it's going to fulfill. In the question of today's debate, we have a God. a God who created a planet, and a God who has beliefs, laws, principles. We do not advocate for exactly an overbearing presence of a God, but rather for intervention. Intervention whereby there are a few tweaks and turns that are done by this God, and they always result in a betterment of the people from what we've seen from our side. Now, there are a few questions from side negative. Firstly, alteration of plans. Firstly, how does God change your plans? You wanted to go to the shop today, you end up going to church instead. You wanted to go to school, you end up coming back home. Such alteration of plans. But Pana, we believe that the God in this case is not sadistic. What do I mean by sadistic? We believe that in today's debate, the God we are working with is changing things for the betterment of people, not for the negative. Otherwise, even without his intervention, he would have automatically made a world that would automatically work against you, a world of constant wars, of constant poisons. But we believe that in this case, that God is not sadistic for the betterment of both sides. Second question is people being sinful due to the idea of a presence of a God. But Pana, we believe that in their world, there'll be more sin. Why? Our world has the incentive of punishment. And they talked about punishment, but I'm coming back to that later. Our world has the incentive of one, punishment, but the incentive two of the love of a God. That means best case scenario, I'm going to do a better job knowing that there's a chance I may meet God in a vision tonight or pray to him and he has spoken to me, than in their world whereby I've probably never met this God. Because one of the prime beliefs of atheists is what you see, you believe. If I've not seen God, how can I believe in his existence? So our world is better because there's an incentive of presence. The next thing is unanswered prayers. But Pano, we believe that the question of unanswered prayers, this means that you pray to God and he does not answer them. But Pano, the intervention principle is communication based. What do I mean? Eventually, your prayer will be answered at the right time because that's the characterization of our side. Your prayer is automatically going to be answered because of the intervention nature of said God. That means you're going to receive a level of communication eventually. Now, the next was the question of punishment for sins. The world itself punishes sins. But the sins the world covers at times have to be exposed, one, and two, they don't best to daily social scenarios. What do I mean? I cannot be punished by most laws for slapping somebody. I cannot be punished for abusing somebody, unless it causes such significant effect that these minor things that somebody does that can be changed. In the great scheme of worlds, if the judicial system especially ends up being corrupt, you can find yourself propagating wrong ideas. The judicial system says, you know what, it's okay to steal. Who's going to be that final checking power to say, no, in fact, you will not steal. You will follow these rules. You will not lie. You will not hurt people. Not committing crimes, especially in the dark. Then the punishment of nature. This was the prime example given by side negative, affirmative, negative, and it's their prime argument. A world of karma, whereby what goes around comes around, nature being the punisher. But Pano, in today's debate, this world of negative takes nature to be a god. It offers a god two things. Firstly, a consciousness, and two, power to dominate an entire race. That means it can punish you based on your actions and punish you in the absence of them. Nature and all surrounding being. And we believe in such a situation, nature has elevated itself to the level of the god. What do I mean? There are many case scenarios whereby you have more than one god in that presence. So you don't have to have only Allah, you have minor small gods. And we believe in this case, they've created a hierarchy whereby they've made nature a god. Why? It is not man automatically. It has power over the entire race. Automatically, it's been elevated to a god. The next was the question of distorting the image of a god. Pano, we believe in our world, the image of a god will not be distorted because people can be punished. What do I mean? I can scream about how God is not true in their world because I know he will not punish me. It's apparently nature punishing me, but I say nature is a god. So that means they don't have the nature like God. I can scream in their world because God is not going to intervene. However, in my world, I can't do anything in affirmative's world because I know God can strike me dead at any point for making such a level of noise. So I believe their world is more unchecked in this question. That second last is the case of being hardworking. Pano, we believe in our world, somebody has a general purpose. By this intervention with God, you get a better idea of what your purpose is on earth. because most humans are given God-related purposes on this planet. I can have a purpose to preach. I can have a purpose to sing and praise the Lord. What does this mean? By his intervention, I know my general purpose. That means I'm working in the right direction. Not forgetting, most gods already preach hard work is one of the things they go for. Thus, the presence of knowing a God and that I have a larger purpose to fulfill on this entire planet is going to make me more and far more convicted to do a better job on this earth and less likely to do things like commit suicide. And the final thing was fulfillment, because people want their wins to be their own. This means I go for a competition, I win it, and I want the prize to be mine. Partner, we believe this is coming from a more selfish point of view. What do I mean? If you know that the God, even a non-intervention God, is the one who created you, gave you the level of skill, gave you the level of attributes and the connections and the coaches to help you win, without you having to have prayed to him, still your win goes back to him, because without him, you wouldn't have existed. I'm going to take a POI now. All right. There are two levels of impact. Firstly, for people, secondly, for the God. The people firstly get a level of comfort and direction. They know they have a genuine purpose in the full scheme of the earth in regards to an existence of a God. And secondly, a motivation to do their purpose on this planet. What do I mean by both of these things? I know, Zephyr, I'm going to be a pastor. I know the Lord wants me to be a pastor. I know the things the Lord doesn't like, and thus I don't do them. I have a connection with an all-powerful being. That's more than enough to give me a purpose and a level of value on this planet and a motivation to fulfill it. But secondly, the God. Realize that God is a moral alignment of what is good and bad. There are far too many gray areas on the planet in regards to many things currently. There's sexuality and whatnot. Now, if the God doesn't want this to happen, and he realizes that this is the type of world I want to create, say in a case whereby after you've lived your life on earth, there's a heaven and hell situation, you find that God having more people going to heaven because he was able to intervene and tell you what I like and what I do not like, rather than him not intervening all your life and you find yourself going to hell for beliefs that sounded correct to you. But secondly, the achievement of the purpose of the planet. What is the goal that God had for the planet? What is the goal that God had for each individual person on said planet? Was his purpose for you to become a pastor? You fulfill it because he's intervening. He's changing situations to benefit you. He's altering your path to ensure you fulfill what is best for you. Because the prime thing in this case is we do not believe in a sadistic God. Conclusively, panel, who is this God? He is the creator, and that creator has laws. It's best he tells them to us. Thank you.
We thank the speaker for the very fine speech. We welcome the second speaker from the negative. Yeah. Second speaker, please. I think Martha Busingye. Please come in, please. Is she here? Okay.
Hi guys, hello man.
Am I audible?
Yes, of course. Hello, hello guys.
Yeah, audible. Yeah, audible.
Sorry about that. I'll start my timer. So the motion states that this house prefers a business interventionalist God to non-interventionalist one. So I'm going to first run through summary, but then go into our case. So our team proposition comes and gives us reasons as to why they prefer an interventionalist God, and they say this interventionalist God motivates one to do good in society. But then right now we are looking at a set that, okay, yes, this, because it's a God and all that, he has given them the rules that, follow this, or yeah, you should be, or because of the love that he gives his followers, so they are going to be motivated to do good. But then we see actually that at a point people actually mistake this whole thing, and they're actually more reluctant because they feel like, yes, I can commit my sin and still be forgiven, because I can still pray to God and he's going to forgive me, and maybe I won't even be punished, stuff like that. That's what we actually see on their side of the world. Unlike on our side of the world, because as we have already been telling you, it's going to be all according to the laws, the laws of the world, all that nature doing its thing. Not that nature is a god, but like we have been put into the world, and there are some forces that are, that are forcing the outcomes that you get. Like, for example, if you do something bad, obviously you're going to get something bad in return. If you do something good, if you help out someone, you're going to get something good in return. Just something like that. That's actually what we see in our world. What we see in our world. On the other side of the world, as I already said, yes, people, yes, may be motivated to do good, and can happen, but then people actually misuse that concept and be like, okay, yes, I'm going to commit this crime, but then God is going to forgive me. They literally see that they're going to commit this crime, and yeah, they just feel like, yeah, God is going to forgive me at the end, so why shouldn't I? And then another thing, on our side of the world, someone has to think thrice or 1,000 times before committing something, because they know they will have to pay for whatever they have done. And then they talk about how their God is like comforting and all that, and
Point of
people
view, comment.
people denied, I'll accept later. So and also provides hope to people and stuff like that. So when somebody is down, that God is going to actually give them hope. Yes, maybe this may be true, but then sometimes things do not work that way. For example, someone may be down because let me say, for example, on their side of the world, sometimes you do not have to follow procedures. It's the God that decides. Yeah, so for example, Martha, I want her to win this whole thing. Like, it does not have to be on how much she has put in, but on, yeah, I've decided she's going to be okay. Like the fate, her fate is to actually win the debate tournament. That's actually what that is what is there. So someone else may want to be something like that, or want to attain something good, and is going to maybe do all the kinds of practice, pray to God, do everything in their power, but still the thing was not according to their faith. Yeah, they actually did, yeah, they actually did something, but in the end, they cannot get what they really wanted. And so we feel like still someone is going to lose hope because they really depended on this God to actually do something for them. Rather than on our side of the world, that if I do this, this, and that, this is actually what I have to get. It's not according to a God or anything. It's my hard work that I put in, and at the end of the day, I'm going to actually attain it. Someone this side may, not even put in hard work, but because they are destined to get to be the best in the tournament, that's how they actually become better. So I've just run through our case. We mainly looked at, on our side we attain denied. On our side we attain more justice because, for example, since everything you do with the thing of you reap what you sow, or karma, whatever you do actually comes back to you. We see that people want, on their side, yes, people may actually do good because the love of God and all that, but it's on a lesser extent. People that may not happen at a bigger rate. On our side of the world, that if you do something bad is going to come back in return. But if you do something good is going to come in return. Rather than on their side, they can actually pray, for forgiveness or stuff like that. Like, yo, I've done so many bad things, and at this rate you've come here and you're going to confess, and yeah, so that's everything that you've done actually is forgiven, and maybe you can move on without being punished. Oh yes, you can be punished, but then you can still move. There is also a chance of you moving on without being punished. Rather than our side of the house, whatever you do, you will have to be punished. And so we feel like on our side, people are actually deterred to do wrong, and they actually do what they are meant to do. If they have to do good, that is what they have to do. Then on their side of the world, we see that there is going to be confusion, because they do not have things that I'm going to follow procedures. Like for example, for the good grades, I'm not going to. Okay, yes, maybe yes, I have to read the books, because they also preach against laziness and stuff like that. But stuff like that, whatever thing you do, God has already decided that this is actually what is going to come out of whatever you do. Like for example, at the end of your candidate class, you're going to attain very good grades. So at a point, you may not have to read that much, or you may not have to pray that much. It has already been predetermined. On our side of the house, we know that there are procedures that you have to follow. You have to read your books. You have to yes, you have to read your books, you have to consult teachers, like everything is there. Whatever you have to do for you to get grades is there. And at the end of the day, you're going to get the good grades. Accepted.
Well, thank you. Our world is currently status quo. Do you believe that in our status quo world, people still read with the presence of an interventionist code? People still read, people still work hard. How is it
Yes, I
different in
do understand that. But then we've also seen, for example, yes, those that have actually attained good marks, you want to also attain good marks, right? Maybe you're performing badly and you want to attain good marks, but then it is not going to happen to you as it happened to somebody else, because there is a God that has already determined everything, that this year matters. You're not supposed to make such a mark. So we see that that's where the confusion comes from. You understand? If, for example, it was yes, whatever you do, if you read your books and do this and that, you're going to attain a grade, then that would be fine. But here at the end of the day, yes, you've done everything, but your work does not matter as much. It's still what God really wanted you to do at the end. Then again, we see that now there is laziness on their side of the house. Yes, people work hard, yes, even when they know that God is going to intervene at the end of the day. But we still see lazy people that actually continue. They actually do not put in the work effort and still expect to get something very good in return. Stakeholders, for the stakeholders, you see, for example, the minorities in society, for example, these people, the majority, the people that have an upper hand, have to actually treat them well, because if not, something bad is going to happen in return. On their side of the house, things may still not happen that well, because they have rules and all that. So sometimes we see the divisions that form up because of these interventionist groups and all that. But even though that wasn't the case, still they can do anything, or they may not have to look through these minority groups and all that much, because they may even treat them badly at a point and still ask for forgiveness at the end. But on our side of the world, they know that if you do something bad, it will still have to come back to you. Then we have motivation to do good, because if you do not do good, if you do something bad is going to come back to you. And yeah, we do not have blame game and everything. Whatever happens to you is because of what you did in the past. So if you perform badly at this rate, you have to, that you did not actually read your books and all that. So that's why you've actually performed badly. But here at this rate, if you perform badly, you may look, was I right with God, stuff like that. So with this, dear judges, I've never been prouder to.
We thank the speaker for the very fine speech. We welcome the third speaker from the affirmative. Here.
successful people, but that's not the case. We see success from people who take bribes. We see success from people like Hitler who accomplish their life missions, and we can't say anything about it because, oh well, maybe that's God's will. God's will, God's intervention. All these things are subjective and based on virtually no evidence. Nobody in this group can say that something has happened to me that is outright God. Maybe if we look in the context of the Bible and we see the parting of the Red Sea, we can say, okay, maybe that was God. But can anyone in today's contemporary society say, besides one-man coincidences, that this was God, this was definitely God? I don't think so. I don't think so. God is not fair. God has zero to no basis for his actions as far as we've seen, but apparently this house believes that an interventionist God is better than a non-interventionist one. There is no argument that sustains that an interventionist God is going to promote anything that these people want to promote. An interventionist God might say you've followed all the 10 commandments, but you still die today because just. The basis of an interventionist God would be acting on, like the first speaker of the opposing side said, desires, or better yet, like the Christian example, actions of Christians, righteous Christians, Christians who do the right thing. But we can't say that those people don't get bad things happening to them. We can't say that the Bible does not promote suffrage. Look at Job. Job couldn't say that this is God putting him in that situation. And the second speaker did mention the existence of Satan. And I want to mention that this is also something that as believers in a non-interventionist God, we may support. But how can you support a notion that Satan is the bringer of all wrong in the world, yet you have no evidence that it's not God just shaking things up and deciding to test us and, like the Bible says, strengthen our faith? The belief in an interventionist God is based on this folly ideology that God intervenes where he's needed, God intervenes where we need help. But this isn't the case. God intervenes when God feels like intervening. Otherwise, we could say that it's because of God that everyone is dying of cancer, or we could say that it's because of God that the world is ending, or global warming. There are so many things that we could blame on God that no, we decide to blame on other things, which isn't just to do, because why would you blame science for one thing and not God? Why can you say there's only things humans can answer with regard to this, but not another? Why can you say that this is all human intervention and not God? The belief that God is the one who acts supremely on certain interventions and certain instances and certain cases is simply unsustainable. This house doesn't believe in unsustainable notions such as that. Instead, it believes in coincidences and science and math. We could say that the universe was formed by the Big Bang, or this or that, and that, like the second speaker said, we could justify the existence of humans by saying evolution. I'm pretty sure Charles Darwin did that very well. If we can provide evidence that this isn't your God, why should you insist on a delusional belief in something no one can verify? If you can provide instances in which one can tell and look and see that this was not at all any cause of human nature or anything that just randomly happened but God, then I would support you. I conclude by saying that this house does not at all prefer the belief of an interventionalist God, because who's to say that there is a God to begin with? And who's to say that he's the one intervening in your life? Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that speech up to. Okay, before Prop 3 starts, can both of you teams type in your speaking order in the text space? Anyways, Prop 3, the floor is yours.
I still cannot hear you. Okay.
Yes. They came and claimed that our side provides great laziness, criminality, revenge, and gave you a long chain of explanation on how this is going to happen. But then, ladies and gentlemen, When you study the actual nature of God, you see love, you see compassion, you see a creator, something that values you see someone that values his creation, ladies and gentlemen, which and in case people actually believe in a God that intervenes, they want to be more like him, they want to be more perfect, ladies and gentlemen. So the laziness and criminality and revenge are all on the negative side of this debate because they basically have no God that is going to hold people accountable. Leaving alone their karma, which is also a God, ladies and gentlemen. You see, our side of the coin actually fosters hard work, ladies and gentlemen, something that they came and tried to hide from, ladies and gentlemen, because people are going to work hard to prove themselves worthy to their God that might intervene in their lives, ladies and gentlemen. You think about a world with 8 million people, God will God will have to prioritize, ladies and gentlemen, so that people that have thought is that are worthy of his favor are the ones who is going to actually save, ladies and gentlemen. You see, they came and blame God for people. She came and said to blame God for people suffering, ladies and gentlemen. In our example, she told us about winning today's debate, fulfillment. Ladies and gentlemen, that only shows the negative side of this house is filled with selfishness, ladies and gentlemen. One of the problems that our world seeks to scrape out. You see, we want a better world for ourselves. And our side of the world is not only taking away selfishness because we want people to do good for others so that they can be a means for God to intervene. Let God use them as like vessels, stuff like that, ladies and gentlemen. You see, we want to talk about growth, ladies and gentlemen. For those who don't realize God's intervention, those are people who are going to be stimulated to be more faithful, to work harder to seek His purpose, do more good things, ladies and gentlemen. On His favor, that He might look on them with mercy and also intervene with their lives. I mean, everyone gets jealous of good things, ladies and gentlemen, which poses a affirmative side to win this debate, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, you also talked about unanswered prayers, ladies and gentlemen. I want you to notice that from the beginning of this debate, we didn't say that the intervention of this God is based on how hard you worked or how much you've done, ladies and gentlemen. We simply say that a God that acts, ladies and gentlemen, a God that is going to do it for the better of his people, ladies and gentlemen. So despite you not praying, there's a God that doesn't want you to suffer, probably because he created you, or probably because he needs you to be a vessel in someone else's life, ladies and gentlemen. So the baggage of unanswered prayers, ladies and gentlemen, actually falls on the negative side of the house. Whether they pray or not, they're not going to have their prayers answered, and they're going to remain broken people, ladies and gentlemen. While for the affirmative team, there's going to be a God that intervenes, whether they've prayed or not, is going to actually do good in your situation so that you can be more hopeful, ladies and gentlemen. You see? So in today's debate, ladies and gentlemen, when you think about the stakeholders, the man, the God, realize that our side of the house actually clears out the misconception of a God who must do good things for you, ladies and gentlemen. You see, they came and claimed about having a purpose, about how God is going to do these things for you if you pray or if you read. Ladies and gentlemen, our side of the house just says simply believing a God that is going to intervene. You see, our case actually absorbs the negative case when we say you need to read your books, you need to work hard so that you may succeed. Because even if your God doesn't intervene, after you worked hard, you're going to have faith lying in your way and then you remain a failure. You're going to have faith in your way, so you're not going to succeed. But if you have a God that intervenes or be taking away these obstacles in your life, is going to be you'll actually plan out for your destination that you're heading to. So the harder you work, the closer you get to this destination. So outside of the house actually provides a reality of you work hard, work well, work smart, work for the community, work justly, and then you'll be able to better yourself for God. Because different religions and different spiritualities have it, God helps those who helps themselves, ladies and gentlemen. And that's why our side of the house stands to win this debate, ladies and gentlemen. We want a better world. We want a better world for the people. And we don't just want a world where people's efforts are in vain, where people's deeds are in vain, or where people's suffering is unaccounted for, people's injustice goes unheard, or people's cries go unheard of. We want a world where there's actually a superior being that is going to intervene to make it a better place, ladies and gentlemen. We want a world where there's a God that has put mechanisms, probably in nature, natural events like earthquakes and floods to make up for the undone justice in this world, ladies and gentlemen. With that, I'd love to raise the affirmative case for this debate.
Okay, we thank the speaker for their very fine speech. So welcome the third speaker from the negative to begin their speech.
I am clear.
Okay, you can begin your speech. Here.
All right, thank you. I'll take your eyes in my 5 and 6 minutes. And I'll start in 3, 2, 1. So the third speaker comes and concludes by saying that their God, that who will do good for his people, sends floods and other natural disasters to solve unmatched justice. Now, this is a God who is sending calamities to destroy everyone, even those who have not deserved the crime. That is why team opposition comes and tells you why we do not prefer an interventionalist God is because even those that are innocent are going to get punished. We get that from their speech, ladies and gentlemen. So their first speaker comes and tells us how, they are looking for a God who provides comfort and hope, a God who provides peace. Now, they do not make us understand how does an invisible God, a God who cannot sit there right with you, a God who cannot hug you and tell you everything is okay, provide comfort, hope, and peace. They do not tell us that, but they just keep on making assumptions that, well, their God intervenes by providing comfort and hope. What should we assume he does to provide that to you? Then they tell us that they believe in a God who is going to keep hope in the people. How is he going to keep hope in the people? He's going to intervene. How does he intervene? He tells you through a prophet that, you know what, you're going to become a judge in the next 2 years, one of the highest judges in the world. And what? Your hopes are going to be there. And what are you going to do? Most of these people, we see them, they just, sit and fold their hands and sit back and wait for the 2 years to happen so that they become judges. Isn't that stupidity? And isn't your God actually being of harm to you? So they come and say, for them, it is righteousness and morality. How are you upholding righteousness and morality by your God intervening? We live in a world, like they said, where the God intervenes, but we have high cases of increase in crime, like they have mentioned, because they talk of the different deviations that sex has taken in the world today. But how has your God upheld righteousness and morality since he's intervening? They do not explain that. They talk of low crime rate, which contradicts with exactly what they talk about. So we don't understand what they say. They talk of motivation for people to do good. How does your God motivate you to do good? By intervening? Isn't he just making you lazy? Isn't he just making you so dependent to him that you can't do anything without him? Then they say that they want to combat immorality, which they do not explain. So we don't know how best you're going to combat the immorality. They say they want to maintain law and order. Which law and order? From their second speaker, we get her conclusion, where it says that what God did, God was to create the planet, and when he created the planet, he had a purpose for it, and so he has to intervene. And then he's like, God the creator has laws, and it's best he tells them to us, and which he has told us the laws. That is why we as team opposition say God should not intervene with the functioning of the natural world in any way, by allowing it to run according to the laws of nature that he configured when he created all things. So if he cannot let the world that he created with these laws run by nature, then we would not believe in such a God. Why would we expect him to intervene anyway? Then they come and tell us, not taken. They come and tell us that when someone has everyone
You are
has
breaking
a
bad. You are
purpose.
breaking really bad.
Did I get that right? I'll continue. They come and tell us that someone has a purpose given by God, and therefore God preaches hard work and all that. But you look at what my second speaker and first speaker talked about. We told you that there are different ways God intervenes, and Team Affirmative has been telling us that when people pray, God intervenes. Even when people don't pray, he still intervenes. Now look at poor King Oedipus. He does not want to be born into such doom where he has to kill his own father and marry his own mother and make kids with his own mother. even when he tries to run away from that, he still ends up in such doom. So should we trust this God who has intervened? Should we believe in such a God who has intervened in a poor soul's life? All in the names of
Point of information.
he has purpose, so you should agree with what everyone said. Then they talk of how the first speaker says that God does not punish, and then the second speaker says God punishes. But even in their third speech, they clearly state that God punishes. So we don't clearly understand what they say. But I will go back to the clashes. They clash on a point of hard work. They say that when you work, you draw closer to God, and then they tell us that we tell them that hard work actually pays off. When you work hard, you attain what you deserve. That explains the karma theory that we talked about. But then how does you and your hard work getting drawn close to the God that you're talking about help you in the long run? They talk of unanswered prayers. And then the third speaker contradicts when he says that God helps those who help themselves. And then he also says that whether you pray or not, God will still help you. So what help are we talking about here? They are trying to believe in something that they actually also do not understand. They talk of selfishness and we talk of fulfillment. They say we are selfish when we say it is rather, we would rather do things and them other than wait on a God who will choose whether to do particular things for us or not. Where someone gives you an example of someone working hard to win a tournament, but then that becomes selfish because they're wishing for themselves. How about you who says that God is going to help his people? I'll take your POI.
Yes, thank you for taking us back to literary paper tricks. I have a question for you. Since it hasn't been highlighted in this whole debate, can you clearly contextualize and explain what a non-interventionalist God looks like in your world?
I clearly explained that in one of the statements I used while explaining. I told you, our God, you say your God is a creator and has laws, and it's best he tells them to us. But then we tell you that that non-interventionalist God we are talking about should not intervene with the functioning of the natural world in any way by allowing it to run according to the laws of nature that he configured when he created all the things. And my first speaker clearly explained the laws of nature and how they work. She clearly told you that what goes around comes back around. You do something bad, bad will come back to you. You do something good, good will come back to you. Literally, there is justice, just like I was explaining before you interrupted. There is justice. And for you, we clashed on justice versus rewards from God. They say that God will reward you for anything that you do. But we talk about justice in our world where God does not intervene, because what I do is what I will get back. If I do good, I will deserve good. If I put in my hard work will pay off. I'll get exactly what I work for and work with, not with the God who actually does things according to how he feels, apparently because he's the one who created the world and therefore it should run on how he wants. And then they come and tell us that he provides guidance. How has he provided guidance? And how is that guidance? Like, what is its importance? Because like you have told us, he created the world and there are laws, period. Why wouldn't he rather pull out and not intervene in this world? Ladies and gentlemen, when they come and tell us that God heals, God comforts people, he gives people peace and all that, we do not have evidence of this, because even in the world that they are supporting, we see that when they talk of morality, there is increased immorality. When they talk of peace, there is no peace, since their God sends natural calamities like floods and all that, apparently to solve unmatched justice, which is going to cause war where people are going to die, which is going to cause instability and all that. That takes me back to what we stand for in tonight's debate. We believe in a non-interventionalist God rather than an interventionist God, because when we talked of how our hard work should pay off, we talked of justice, how justice is going to be achieved, everyone will get what they deserve. We talked of fighting crime, we talked of one being more cautious about what's around them, less confusion, and then we talked of why we live, and then we told you how we live for fulfillment and actualization. I have never been prouder than to oppose tonight's motion. I rest my case.
Welcome the reply speaker from the negative. Yeah.
Am I audible? Allow me to set my timer and then I begin my speech today. Okay, so I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, sorry. I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panel. 3 clashes in this debate today. A, which world has more deterrence? B, which world has more utility? And C, which world has more self-actualization and it's better to actually live in as a human race? Now, to start off, right, on the clash of which world has more deterrence, we believe that we actually took this clash as side negative, right? We came and clarified for you 2 different kinds of worlds. A, we showed you a world with an interventionist God. That is, we showed you that in this particular world, you can pray to God and be forgiven for anything that you have done, right? That is a very important characterization that the state of the house didn't even touch at any particular point in time, right? We showed you that in any situation that you are in, you can pray to this particular God, and like this God forgives you, and like this God helps you actually fulfill what you want to do at the end of the day. So this is a world where we do not see deterrence. Why? Because people have that liberty to pray after they commit all their sins, and they know this sort of divine intervention is actually going to serve them. But also, secondly, we showed you a world where there is no interventionalist God. God just created us, right? It is nature and karma that actually works upon us, right? We actually see more deterrence at this particular point in time because people know that what comes around goes around. What goes around comes. Karma is going to slap them in the face when they do something wrong. So at this particular point in time, these groups of people actually push to actually do very good things. They are pushed to follow those different rules that were set by nature, and they are pushed to actually be good people in the society. This is something that we actually take over in this debate today. Secondly, which world actually has more utility, right? We can characterize to you how when we actually have an interventionalist God, right, people can still be lazy, right? You get that comfort from God. We do understand God gives you comfort, but you do not actually work with that comfort because we actually see different people praying, right? You come and you pray at that point in time for God to help you in your endeavors, right? Let us look at UNEB examinations. I will pray to God to get an 8 in 8, yet I haven't worked for it, and I get that 8 in 8. That is basically what their world preaches for, right? A God who you pray to, and after praying to that God, you can get whatever you want. So their world depends on the amount of time you actually take in praying to this particular God than actually your hard work, right? We showed you our world where it's your hard work which actually pays what you actually do. You reap what you sow is the world we actually preach to you, and is the world we wanted to show you as we actually win over this debate today, because we believe in our world you get what you actually work for. And at this particular point in time, we see more utility. We see people working harder, other than the world where people are actually lazy. But also, finally, which world has more self-actualization? We gave you 2 case scenarios, knowing that for everything you do, some divine deity is going to come and slap you in the face and make you and like make all your plans go away, make you like lose all your hope at this particular point in time. I might want to be a doctor, but I know that even if I become a doctor at some particular point in time, this divine deity is going to slap me in the face, and then I stop like becoming this doctor. Or secondly, even if I actually want to do something and actually achieve it, I know that it's not me who actually did this particular thing, but it's this God which did it, right? Which actually demoralizes me and actually start thinking that life is a scam. So we actually take this sort of like premise in this debate today, right? So basically, 3 things we wanted to prove to you in this debate today. A, why our world attains more utility. B, why God is better off on our side. And C, why the stakeholders are better off on our side. We showed you A, God is better off because people cannot rely or people cannot put their bad things that happen to them on God. They cannot put all their losses on God. They know that at a particular point in time where I don't work hard, I'm not going to attain something, right? Or rather than them actually abusing God when they do not actually get anything out of the hard work that they have done. This is a world that is better for God, and we believe that this is the best world to take on as the other side of the house. Bapano, we take this debate on the grounds of showing you why a world without an interventionalist God is actually the best world.
I have stopped writing. Okay, so welcome the first speaker from the affirmative. Here.
Affirmative, that would be me. My time will be starting in 3, 2, 1. Panel, who is the God? In our case, the God is the person stronger than man. The God is the person who created the world, who created the laws of the world, but also has a domineering impact over the people. From this characterization, from the punishing character of nature, or from side affirmative, we believe nature indeed has qualified to be a God in today's debate. That's why we believe side negative falls on that first case. The second question is God Because this God in our world determines your fate. This God who can cause abstract destruction upon, is he good? Believe that this God is indeed good, because if he were negative, he wouldn't have intervened for you to suffer. He'd simply create a world horrible enough, a world where you wake up and you always have diseases, constant wars, constant struggling, constant suffering. And he wouldn't have to intervene for you to suffer, because the world he has placed you on is horrible enough. So we believe that if you have a life where you can get a job and have a family and a good friend, that God in that world is already good. Now, question of which side yields the best citizen, non-lazy. Realistically speaking, society has quickly realized intervention does not mean a silver platter. We can give examples from Christianity to Islam. People still work hard because God doesn't say, you've prayed, here you go. Otherwise, we would have had quite the number of stories about that. But rather, believing in a God who intervenes gives you an incentive to be a better person. An incentive not had in their world. Their world's incentive is nature, and we believe nature is a god from this case. So it shifts back to our side. The best citizen is yielded when someone has an incentive to be good. They talked about the case of apology, when sin and apologize, but then they contradicted themselves by saying you can't sin in their world because they have a judicial system that's going to punish you if you do anything wrong. What's the summary of best citizen? Best citizen happens in our world when you have, one, the incentive to do good, and two, a greater purpose, as I'm about to show you. The fourth question is, where is the greatest self-actualization? Panel, we believe that in a world with a God, the God has a bigger purpose for everybody else. Our side say that the greatest purpose is that of the God who tells you, you shall be a pastor, you shall preach, you're going to be the deliverer of the nations. And we believe that this intervening purpose is that which is going to give you the greatest joy, because it's the most long-serving purpose in your very existence as a human being. But the primary question we believe should have been asked in this debate is, which side caters more for the God? Side negative's characterization of the God is one who should not be involved in your daily life, one who disrupts fate and should not be involved in its the marching of fate, is one who does not plan that well, is one who is so forgiving he can overlook crimes. Yet very many religions have very straightforward gods who punish all crimes. But we understand that from that analysis, that God is not fulfilled to its highest level because he's not intervening. In the case of intervening, a God is. Oh my God. I'm sorry, could you please mute yourself? We believe that in our world, that God is best portrayed as who he is because he's intervening, and thus people get to know his character, his goodness, his lovingness, and his proper nature. So what's the conclusion of this debate? An intervening God is that who guides you, is that who shows you the path, is that who comes to you in dreams, in vision. He guides you and protects you. Surely, in all cases, that is the best world for the best citizen. Thank you.
Thank the speaker for a very fine speech, and we'll hold this round. Oh, thank you very much, all. So, the panelists, can everyone please leave the room so I and the panelists and I can deliberate here? And then we'll come back for.
How about because this was like initially being streamed, maybe just get another room and then probably we'll deliver there. Probably room 5 or room 6.
Panelists, please. I don't know.